I'm going to begin with telling you the ground rules. 3 of our 4 questions come from stakeholders. Sheila Pisey-Allen is with TTC Riders and has a transit question. Caitlin Leach is a housing advocate with the Parkdale Community Legal Services. And Paul Nguyen is the founder of JaneFinch.com and has a question about crime. Each candidate was given 2 minutes to respond to each question and 1 minute for a follow-up question. Now to our first question on crime from you, Paul. It has been an especially devastating year for this city. We've had a record number of shootings, more than 80 murders. What is the question that you would like to ask the candidates about crime?
I think this is a very important question. My question for the candidates is, what are they going to do to stop gun violence in the city?
This is a challenge that we face this year to what is otherwise still a very safe city that has troubled me greatly and many Torontonians as well. And we've essentially said we're doing 3 things. And this is an area where these government partnerships are so important, and we are actually working well together. First, support the police. And we've had some help from Premier Ford and his government to make sure we can hire 200 police officers this year and 200 officers next year. And those officers will be deployed largely in neighborhoods, walking the beat the old-fashioned way, where they will be able to get to know people better and help to restore trust between the police and the community, but at the same time also be there long enough. They're going to be there for 4 years at a time, so the same officers will stay there, that they can see what sort of is happening that's right in the neighborhood and some things that maybe don't look quite right.
So Paul's question is one that is top of mind for every parent in this city, every resident in this city, and in every single neighborhood of this city.
First, support the police. Secondly, change the laws. And I've been a leading national advocate, to the point where some have criticized me, which is fine, posing the question, why does anybody who lives in the city of Toronto need to have a handgun? I don't believe they do. And I've got the federal government to the point, with help now from Montreal and other cities that have joined in, to say that they're going to have formal national consultations this fall on the notion of banning handguns, which I think would help to curb the supply of guns. I've said the same about the bail laws, which I think are now allowing people charged with gun offenses to just routinely walk out of jail hours after they've been arrested and then do the same thing over again.
Mr. Tory's approach when he became mayor, well, first of all, in the last election, he said that gun violence and a gun ban was an empty gesture. He was dead wrong. I've always supported a gun ban and an ammunition ban in our city. Guns have no role in a city. They absolutely have no reason to exist in our city other than to harm people. And I've always strongly believed that we need to ban handguns and assault weapons and ammunition in our city as a starting point. That is just a baseline. It doesn't solve everything, but it is the critical starting point.
Finally, and I think in a way most important, including to the questioner, invest in kids and families. And this is where we've had huge partnership with the federal government to make sure we provide the supports, the programs that are going to keep kids in school, help them with their homework, offer them an arts or music or sports program, get them a mentor, help them get a summer job. We have to invest in those communities. It's a big priority of mine going forward for the whole of the next 4 years for a variety of reasons, including making sure that we do everything we can to keep those kids on a positive track and away from being recruited into the kind of gang activity that has been a major contributor to the gun violence that you asked about.
We need a clear public safety strategy. Mr. Tory came to office, and what did he do? He froze the police budget and he froze the hiring of police officers. Then we had a crisis emerge, and he said, oh, look, let's hire more officers. That yo-yoing approach does not help a city become safer over time. So I've brought forward a plan that is all about delivering community safety and well-being plans at the neighborhood level. Policing is just one tool to deliver community safety, but we need a collaboration through neighborhood plans between policing, our school boards, our community centers, our United Way agencies, our faith-based communities and cultural groups at the neighborhood level. Right now, we've got 140 neighborhoods in our city and only 5 safety plans. My commitment is to put proactive safety plans in every single neighborhood of this city within 2 years. This is essential. We know crime prevention works, and it costs a lot less, and it also results in much less trauma, and it's about ensuring everyone has access to opportunity in our city and doesn't see that violence or crime is the only way forward. We can do this. It's just a matter of having a clear plan and a clear objective.
You know, we've had a very difficult year in this city. We had 2 little girls shot in a playground, the van attack, the Danforth shooting. A man was shot in Dundas Square, shot to death just across the street from us here. What big, bold idea do you have that hasn't been tried in this city before?
So I've met with Stacey King, who's the mother of the two girls who were shot in the playground. And in fact, Stacey King has been volunteering on my campaign precisely because she supports the preventative approach that I've brought forward. Cynthia, this is the crazy thing. We know how to address this. We know it's about providing opportunities for at-risk youth so that they don't get caught up in crime and violence. And that's why those community safety plans are the bold idea. That's the way that we can transform our neighborhoods to be inclusive places for everyone. That's really what's at the root of this problem around violence that we see, is that our city's becoming more and more divided, and that we know we can transform that by providing opportunities for everyone.
If there was a magic wand of some kind or some big idea that was in and of itself going to eradicate gun violence or take away these terrible tragic incidents we've seen, I would have announced it and adopted it and formed any partnership I could. I think most people out there know that there is not a magic wand. There is not a one solution that will solve the whole thing answer to this. And so by saying we're going to support the police and give them more resources, including with technology to help keep track of the bad guys, by saying we're going to change the laws to toughen up the gun laws and the bail laws, and by saying we're going to invest in kids and families, I think we're doing the three things that will make the biggest difference. But I will tell you the one that I really think we can, launch a kind of citywide crusade on with the help of the private sector, both individuals and corporations and others, is investing in kids and families. And with all the talent and all the resources we have in this city, really deciding that we're going to be serious about providing the supports to those kids and to those families to make sure that those kids stay on the right track and don't go off into the kind of gun violence that we've seen.
We continue our election coverage this evening. Now, Paul Nguyen, we just heard from the two candidates talking about their answer to your question on crime. What would you do to curb gun violence in this city? What did you think about their answers?
Many of the things I've heard before, and people are considering this the sequel to the Summer of the Gun Part 2. And 10 years ago, whenever it happened, we had the politicians come out and say, more cops, more programs. And we did have more cops, we did have more programs, but yet the gun violence is still happening. So, I want to know, what else can they do? And I think maybe some of these politicians, these candidates, should come to the different neighborhoods and actually meet the people, meet the kids. And, we don't want to just stop, the gun violence and the guns, but we have to stop the kids from becoming criminals or whoever these people are. So I think it's a multi-pronged approach, and I think, Mr. Tory had a point that there's no magic wand, unfortunately. But I'm hoping that, this election they'll come up with more great ideas and hopefully they can attack the problem.
Did you hear anything new in either of their answers?
Unfortunately, I wasn't blown away by anything. I was hoping for something a little bit more specific, but then again, maybe they need more time to look at this. It seems like a rehash to me. And, I'm looking for something a little bit more.
Okay. They both said that they agreed with banning handguns and ammunition. John Tory talked about how he wanted to start a crusade with the private sector to invest in children and families. Jennifer Keesmaat also talked a lot about families, and she talked about a public safety strategy and that there are only 5 safety plans for all the 140 neighborhoods. What are your thoughts on those comments?
Well, I think a plan is great, and hopefully they execute that plan. Hopefully we get more than just hearing these promises, and we need more action. I think we need people to come into all these neighborhoods and visit and see, every neighborhood might have a different problem, different challenge. So hopefully, it's more than just a plan, and I would love to see, John Tory, Jennifer Keesmaat come down to Jane and Finch or any other neighborhood and maybe talk to the people directly and just hear from the residents and get their ideas.
Is there anything that you specifically yourself would like to hear? Do you have any ideas for them?
You know what? I'm putting me on the spot. But
I'm sorry.
It's all right. I've been advocating for my community for well over 15 years. And, you have to mentor young people. You have to stop the guns. You have to stop people from having that urge to resort to violence. So there's so many things we have to do. And I think it's going to take place over many years. So I think we have to have our politicians connect with the people, connect with the youth, and nurture them and mentor them over the years, and because we can't end it in one night. So I think it's going to be a long-term approach.
All right. Thank you very much.